All right, it's time for Pokemon Team Creation Series. I can't actually do a really good Squidward. I can do Patrick. I can do SpongeBob like there's no one's business, but I can't Mr. Krabs, even Plankton. But Squidward, because he's so deep and nasally, I can't do a good impression about it. But from Nazareth Hussein and Brandon Fee, uh, we have Squidward Tentacles. Now, Squidward, despite his name, is actually classified as an octopus. So, despite the fact he only has 6 tentacles. So, where do we go from there? Well, there's only a couple octopi or octopus-based Pokemon. You have the Grapple Lock line, which does not fit with Squidward. He's not a very physical individual in that sense. You have the Octillery line, and if you want to get technical, you have the Malamar line, which is more based off squids. That being said, I did go with Octillery personally. I think this is just, it's the original octopus Pokemon. It does, I think, make the most sense too. Also, when we get to the Pokemon that represents as clarinet, which, spoilers, I got a Pokemon for that. It's not a very good option. I think you can also make an argument that the our Octillery's mouth is the kind of close to a clarinet as well. So I would say Octillery makes the most sense. I did, however, also add Malamar onto the team. Now, why did I do that? Well, partly because of another Mon that's on the team coming up. I needed a Mon that kind of represented his attitude. Add on to the fact that it's a cephalopod, like Squidward is, and Squidward is his name. But also the fact that he's a grumpy guy. He's grumpy. He's not really angry. He doesn't have that much of an anger problem, though he's got his outbursts, but everyone does. But I needed something that's kind of maybe more negative in terms of his personality. So, or represent that. So Malamar, I thought, fit the bill of the remaining cephalopods. Again, don't think Grapple Lock works in this case. But in terms of someone who's grumpy a lot of time, well, it's in the name. Grumpig. Now, Grumpig, whether or not it's actually grumpy, that's individuals. In fact, any Pokemon can be grumpy, technically. But it's literally in his name, Grumpig. So I decided to go with that. By the way, I'm not, except for maybe Octillery and the next one coming up, I'm not hard, except for maybe half the team, I'm not really hard set on this team. If you can think of a better idea for the team, let me know. But when anything random comes into play that's fun and that's been done for a character, I do want to try to apply it because it gives me an option on the team so I don't have to really stretch the character that much. And remember when they became, well, I can't remember the name of it, Sandy, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward became the next version of the superhero team. He was, I believe, the Living Volcano, was it called? So, why not have a Living Volcano on the team and Camerupt? It's literally got 2 living volcanoes on its back. I think that makes sense. Now, his clarinet. When I try to find musical-based Pokemon, there are not a lot of, I mean, there's a fair few in the grand scheme of things. It's less than 1% of all Pokemon. Or it's a little, like barely over 1%. But the problem is, musically inclined Pokemon aren't usually using instruments. They're usually singing. And the few that do have some sort of instrument involved, be it like Gigantamax Toxtricity, Rillaboom, they're not using like wind instruments. So I had to stop and think on that. Like, okay, what else is there? And I just ended with, and bear with me here, Trumbeak. Why? Well, its beak is kind of like a wind instrument in terms of its shape, but also that kind of comes from its name as well. Trum from trumpet. So that's maybe the closest I could get. Otherwise, there really isn't a good option for the clarinet because there just isn't enough Pokemon that actually use instruments around at this time. And then we get into the last one, which honestly, this was I had to struggle for a bit, and then I realized, well, I do need to have something that represents his house, an Easter Island head. So Nosepass, which is both a compass, Willie something or other? The magnet, it's based off magnets, but it's also got a Easter Island head design to it as well. So there you go. Again, like I said, I'm not married to this team. I think Malamar, Grumpig, and Trumbeak could be swapped out. I would still keep Octillery, Camerupt, and Nosepass, though. I did not go fully evolved on either of them because, honestly, no, Probopass is not an Easter Island head, so that doesn't work. And Toucannon really is kind of doesn't have much going for it in terms of representing the clarinet either. Now, with that being said, as always, how balanced is the team and how was the deal? The immediate answer is it's actually fairly balanced. It does have a couple weaknesses, to be sure, but it's got a lot more strengths. It's got 2 times grass weakness for the rock and the water type, a 2 times bug weakness for the dark psychic and psychic type, 2 times water weakness to the rock and the ground fire type, a 2 times electric weakness to, again, the water type and the flying type, and a 2 times ground weakness for the rock and the flying type. On the other hand, though, it's got 2 times strength against rock with the water type and the ground type. 3 times weakness against fire with your water, your rock, and your ground type. 2 times, to say weakness, I meant strength. 2 times strength against fighting types with 2 psychic types and a flying type. 2 times strength against poison types with 2 psychic types and a ground. Actually, I believe it's a times 3 weakness or strength. Sorry, it's a times 3 strength. My bad. A times 3 strength against poison because ground is also strong against poison. Times 3 strength against ice, thank courtesy of the fire type and the rock type. Times 2 strength against grass with the fire and the flying type. And last but not least, a times 3 strength against bug with the rock, flying, and the fire type. Great, wonderful. But how balanced is this team in terms of actually trying to become the champion? The immediate answer is not very balanced. Now, in Kanto, you will make it to the Elite Four. You would struggle somewhat with Surge because you won't have a fully evolved Inkay, your Remoraid's not evolved, and your Spoink's not evolved. But at the levels you'll have them at, and the fact that you have two psychic types, you should be able to handle it okay. Then when you get to Erica, none of your mon would still be evolved yet, but you're adding a fire type on the team who's going to resist the electric, or basically be neutral to the electric, the grass type. It'd be a little difficult, but you should be okay. By the time you get to Koga, though, everything should be evolved. And at that point, you should clear him. Sabrina's never really a problem as long as you got a dark type on the team, which you do. Blaine, honestly, even though Blaine you got no problems with. Ground, you got a times 2 weakness too, but you also got Octillery on the team, so you should be fine. Really, it's not till you get to the Elite Four that you got a problem, because Lorelei, despite being an ice type trainer, is actually an ice water type trainer. The only ice type on their team that isn't dual typed in a way that weakens fire is Jinx. So you could handle Jinx with Camera, but Camera is also really goddamn slow. And then, so you're going to have to rely more on Nosepass, who's going to get cleaved by the water typing. You can bring out Malamar to deal with something like Slowbro and Jinx, but there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get through the other one. She's actually going to be pretty tough. Bruno isn't. Neither is Agatha, because she's actually got all poison types, not just Ghost. Lance, though, is going to be a problem because any dragon trainer is a problem. This team doesn't handle dragons well at all. And you might not get past Lance. If you could get past him, it's questionable whether a unit could get through Blue or not. This just comes down to the fact that Pidgeot outspeeds pretty much everything on the team, which means it's going to get hits in before you're able to get hits in. And even if you switch out the Nosepass, it's still going to get more hits in, and no guarantee you're taking it out in one shot with Nosepass. Then, yeah, you got your Malamar to deal with the Alakazam, but then you have to bring out your Octillery again to deal with the Rhydon, and that's assuming you put it down in one hit. And then you've got the mix of grass, fire, and grass, fire, and water, which you are strong against 2 of those types. You are strong against both fire and grass, but you're not strong against water. As a matter of fact, you have weaknesses to water on this team. And if it's the Gyarados or the Blastoise, you're going to be in trouble, because that's Blastoise stats. So it's a hard maybe. It's hard maybe, which is more than I can say for everything else. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you don't become champion in any of the other regions. Where do you stop? That's the question. Well, you get past Faulkner and Johto relatively all right. Bugsy, though, you might stop because your Malamar is just going to get cleaved by that site there. The Remoraid might come through, though. But then you got to deal with Whitney. Whitney, even though you will have 2 psychic types, dark type, and a water type, That milk tank is notoriously destructive. I don't think you can get past it. Even if you can, then you got to deal with Morty, who's a ghost type, and you still don't have a fully evolved Malamar yet. So, yeah, it does not look good for you. It does not look good for you. The irony is you could get past Chuck with no problem. You could probably get past Jasmine, no problem. And you could get past Price, no problem. But then you're stopgapped at Cynthia, who, yeah, you're not getting past Cynthia. 2 Dragonairs and a Gyarados and Kingdra, you're not getting past her. Even if you brought down 1 or 2 of them, you're still going to have to deal with the rest. So, no, it's just a no-go. Honestly, Hoenn, you are kind of stopped at, no joke, Watson. You can get past Roxanne, no problem. And also, you can get past Brawly, no problem. That's not the problem. But because Watson has Magnetons on the on this side of the field, he's got Steel typing. He's got Resistance. And you don't have any fully evolves. They're just going to completely get wrecked at that against him. Even if you manage it, you then got to deal with Flannery, who you're still not going to have any fully evolves at that time. It's just not. The problem here is that all of Squidward's team, early, like almost all of it, is too late in the game to be able to handle the mid-stage game. Like, once you get past Gym 4 or 5, depending on your region, you will have all these guys fully evolved, because they all evolve actually roughly in the same area, low 30s. I believe Grumpig actually is a level 12. Hold on, let me clarify something on Grumpig real quick. Because I think Grumpig might actually evolve in the upper 20s, not the lower 30s. Now, if I'm right about that, I will maybe change my opinion on 1 or 2 of these real quick. But I want to double check that real quick. Grumpig. Where are you, grumpy pig? Who's the grumpy pig? Who's my grumpy pig? Are you my grumpy pig? Yeah, you're my grumpy pig. Anyway, enough of that crap. And Grumpig's actually got chunky special defenses, so he can take a special hit. 32. No, I was right. Camerupt is also in the 30s, as is Malamar, and has to do the flip thing, but we don't care about that here. It's just, it's not a good team to try to do early runs with. Once you get it evolved, it can actually handle itself all right, but you're never going to get that far. Same issue with Sinnoh. Gardenia is your first. Again, Rourke, not a problem. But Gardenia, the only thing that really saves you in that match is the fact that Roserade is a poison type. And honestly, she's still got 3 Mon on the team. A Turtwig, I believe is a Cherim. Wait, is it just Turtwig and Roserade? Or was it Turtwig? I want to say she has 3 Mon on the team. It's Turtwig, Roserade, and I want to say it's either Cherubi or Cherim. Let's see here now. Gym leaders. No, she does have 3. Yep, and I was right. It was a Cherubi. Yeah, no, does not look good for you. Does not. In fact, you're probably not getting past that, even with having at least somewhat of a type advantage against the Roserade. Even if you could, you actually aren't even getting past Fantina or Mei Lin, depending which version you're doing, because you've got her. She's got fighting types, yes. They're weak to psychic, yes, but they also have things like knockoff on them. So, problem. And then Fantina is a ghost type. Enough said. Then you get to Unova. Your first big struggle, your first big hurdle will be Berg. Because Malamar and, Inkay and Grumpig are both psychic types. And one's a dark type, so it's quad weak to bug. Remoraid might be will definitely take down the not Duat, Crustle and, why am I blanking on the bug's name? It's the little Hermicrab Pokemon. That's bug rock type. Why am I blanking on its name? Let's see here now. Come on. But point being, he's got that, and you can get through that with Remoraid, but then he's also got Swaddle, or Swadloon, that's it? Swadloon. And I believe Venipede? Or Whirlipede. I think it is. Whirlipede. What is the name of that? Why am I blanking on its name? Joltik. Dwebble. That's it. Dwebble. I want to say Dua, but I know that's the middle evolution of Samurott. But yeah, Dwebble. Yeah, you can get through the Dwebble no problem, and you might even clear the Whirlipede, but the problem is Swaloon's a bug and grass type, so that's just not happening. And now my computer's doing the same thing. I hate when this happens. I hate when this happens. Okay. Anyway, it will correct itself momentarily. I still got stuff to talk about. So I'm not sure you can get past them. And if you can't, you still got to deal with Elisa, who's got a type advantage over your Remoraid. You still got to deal with, and we'll also be able to take out your Nummel with Aerial Ace. So that's problematic in its own right. Let's get that volume off on the screen here for something. Actually, we're just going to exit out of the entire internet right now. There we go. So anyway, yeah, it's just Univa's, you're not well matched up in Univa. Kalos, you actually can get, it's for the first time in a while you can actually get to the Elite Four. In fact, none of the gym leaders would actually be that problematic. Remoraid really is fine against bugs. She doesn't have a type advantage against you anyway. At that point, you're going to be so high leveled enough with both Inkay and your Remoraid that you should be able to one-shot the Auroras. Tyrant might be a little difficult because the dragon resists the water, but you should be fine. And then you can get through Karina, because you got 2 Psychics and a Dark, or Psychic Dark, 2 Psychics. And then after that, at that point, you're now kind of able to sweep the majority of the gym leaders at that point. Valerie might give you a little problem because you don't really have a lot of strength against Fairy here. And you have at least one weakness with Inkay and Malamar. Really, it's the Elite Four that you're done on because you've still got a times, what is it now, 2 weakness to water. So right at the gate, the water user will be problematic. Then you still got to deal with Wingstrom and his steel typing. Yes, you got Nummel, but he outspeeds your Nummel on most of his Mon. So that's going to be problematic. Then you got to deal with Dragon with Drantha. And you got to deal with the fire typing, which, yeah, maybe you could get past that, but it's tough roll. Then you got to deal, even if you could, you got to deal with Diantha, which opens with Hawlucha, which outspeeds everything on the team. So most of your guys are going down hard. You're going to have to bring out your Psychic type just to take it down. Then you have no answer for Tyrantium at all. So you're going to struggle with that. Auroras, you kind of, sort of get it. No, it's neutral to fire. So you don't really have an answer to that. You don't have an answer to Gudra. You got one answer to Gorgeist. 2 answers, actually. Actually, no, you got plenty of answers to Gorgeist. But then you got to deal with the Mega Gardevoir. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. And then Galar is over before it begins. You're starting with a Remoraid against a Grass-type gym. With a fully evolved on it, too. That's just not happening. Not happening. If it were something like Milotic, which has a stat advantage over Milo, that'd be different. It's not. It's a Remoraid, so it's a no. And then you get into Paldea, and honestly, Katie isn't really a problem. You should be fine. Brassius is, though, going to be a problem because you have an Inkay, which isn't evolved, and you have a Remoraid, which is not evolved, against the Grass Gym. You're inherently up the creek without a pal. If you could get past that, you then got to deal with Iono, who are surprisingly tough. That no weakness Miss Magius with Hex and Confusion Ray is kind of broken. So, yeah. There's just no way you would be able to become champion in any region with this team. Even hypothetically, if I just decided to put this team against all the Elite Fours and champions real quick. And Johto, you should be fine against Will. You should actually even be fine against Koga. And you'd be fine against Bruno. No problems there. Then you're at a stopgap when it comes to Karen, because you have no answer for Dark on this team. And then there's no way in hell you're beating Lance. What about Steven and the Elite Four there? Nate's Dark types are automatically a problem. He's got a Sharpedo to deal with the camera. He's got a Cacturn to deal with your Nose Pass. Shiftry also to deal with Articulate. So I actually don't even think you can get past Nate. What about Sinnoh? Aaron? The Saiyans actually can handle Bug all right. Problem is everyone's just too slow. And there's the Drapion to consider. But I wouldn't say it's impossible. But what about Bertha then? If artillery goes down, you're in an uphill battle. And then what about Flint? Surprisingly, Flint you could actually handle. You could handle Flint. And then Lucian, you got Malamar that's going to only get you so far, but then there's no way. Cynthia's team's way too balanced. She has 2 water types on the team. One's a water ground type. Not to mention she has Lucario to deal with your rock and your infected steel to deal with like Trumbeak if it needs to. Garchomp you have no answer for, so yeah, it's a no-go. We already talked about Kalos, but what about, or no, Unova. Could you be Iris or Alder? No. Excelgor outspeeds everything on this team by a long mile. And then you still got to deal with, you're still going to have to deal with Druddigon, Volcarona. By then, your Octillery is probably down for the count, so you don't really have a good answer to Volcarona. Except, and Bug, honestly, it resists ground, so even Camera Up having ground-type moves doesn't matter. And Iris starts out with a freaking Hydreigon, so that's not happening. And then you get to Galar, your Leons. You can't be, no. There's no, just no. You cannot beating Leon. There is no beating Leon here. And then hypothetically, if you were to get the Elite Four in Paldea, what would happen? Octillery could handle some of Rika's team, but the problem is Octillery's not that fast either, and some of her team would be able to resist. Dugtrio specifically can just outspeed the damn thing. I think, though, you could get past Rika. Camerupt, or Poppy, though, your only answer is Camerupt. That's it. If Camerupt goes down, you're effed. And then you still got to deal with Larry and his flying tights, which this team's not really well suited for. Only one Mon on this team is good against flying, and it's a nose pass of all things. Yeah, no, it's kind of a testament to this team to represent Squidward that it just fails. But I don't know. If you were to max it out, give like a Mega Evolution on the camera up, make it a true cannon, go Probobass. Do you think it would maybe improve? I mean, it would certainly improve it. Do you think it wouldn't be enough to improve it to the point where maybe he could win? I don't personally think so, but what do you think? Let me know. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.